Hey everybody, and welcome to this month's Instructor Community Call with Skillable. My name, as always, is Kyle Rosenthal. I am a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm also an account executive here at Skillable. So the agenda for today, our welcome, and that's where our new normal sort of housekeeping comes in. We've also got a fireside chat with one of our senior product managers, so with Eric, and that'll be, I'm really looking forward to that. Just to kind of have a chat about what our process is for when, if you've got requests about how to improve the platform, that sort of thing, how we kind of deal with that, because it's sort of oftentimes it feels like a bit of a black box that things get thrown into. Then a reminder of some of our instructor offers. We've also got part of that will be Ashley's going to join us to have a chat about some of the exciting new items that are coming up in our challenge labs. And then we'll have some time for some conversation and questions at the end. So for those Microsoft folk that are joining us and listening in, just a couple of updates for our mock courses. There's some new courses that are being put out. Obviously, you would be aware of some of the changes that are being made of how the Azure passes and that sort of thing are being handed out, and that's been out for a while, so hopefully shouldn't be anything new for you. But just bear in mind that in the resources tab is where you're going to find all the goodness for the Azure portal content. If you don't have Azure, so if the lab you're in doesn't require or doesn't use the cloud slice, but actually requires an Azure pass still, and there is still a few courses that are that. Just remember, you don't have to supply that to the students anymore. We actually supply that. It's still in that resources tab though, so you'll be able to get it within there. So there's no need to go and distribute it, and there's no way for folk to be able to order that either. In addition to that, if you are a new customer to us, or if your center is used to just order through the courseware marketplace, just bear in mind that there is a new marketplace that's available if you're ordering labs from Skillable, and that's marketplace.skillable.com, and that's where you can then go and register for that. As a Microsoft certified trainer, there's been some discussion on some of the forums with regards to, hey, I'm an MCT, how do I order labs? And the answer is that as an MCT on your own, you can't get access to that because you need to be a training partner, but you can sign up to be a MAPS training partner, so a Microsoft Action Pack training partner. Now that's done through Microsoft, but once you've got that training partner details, you can then come across to the marketplace to do there. Otherwise, if you are a training center, you can sign up with your training details within there. Also bear in mind that within the Microsoft space as well, the things that we discussed last session, which is making sure that you're doing things like registering for your activities and so registering for the activities as well as registering for the achievements as well, so that then you get that recognition when the students finish a course, that they're then prompted to be able to get to be able to take their achievement, because that's where your KPIs are coming from Microsoft. All right, so a little bit of a quick aside within there for the Microsoft folk, just to put that through, because oftentimes there's it becomes a little bit of a game of, oh well, I'm pretty sure someone said this and that sort of thing. So try and make sure it's all clear as possible. And of course, as soon as courses are being released by Microsoft, we will be working on those to be able to put those out and have those released onto the platform. All right, now, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Eric Grau, our Senior Manager for Product Management. Eric, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Would you like to introduce yourself to the crowd?
Certainly. Well, first of all, I'd like to say welcome to everybody here coming to this to this instructor call, and it's always exciting when we have the opportunity to talk to wonderful people like yourselves. And I am a senior product manager. I've been here at Skillable for about 1.5 years, but I was a customer for 5 years before I came here, and I was part of the training program. I was an instructor myself for about 10 years, and use Skillable and love the product so much. I'm here and would love to talk to everyone about how to better enhance our product, how to get the right things to where they need to be, and using our mechanisms to show you how the process works.
Great. So and Eric, that's the reason that sort of that we pulled you in today was to be able to kind of give us some of that insight as to what that process looks like. So when we kind of move from sorry, just rewind that a little bit. Oftentimes what happens is that we encourage feedback, right? Like you'll hear us, and this is just for the general sort of audience, you'll hear us at the during these sort of calls, that sort of thing. We'll say, hey, look, make sure you give us some feedback. We've got a feedback site set up for it. But what always intrigues me, and I know intrigues others, is what happens to those requests? Because there's sometimes there's frustration, right? It's like, well, I put that request in and no one did anything with it. So what's the process? Say for instance, I fill out a form and I go, right, I have this brilliant idea. It would make everything really great in my world. And I click submit. What happens?
Well, that's Kyle. I mean, that's perfect, right? You let it up perfectly. And I think the best way to actually get everyone on the audience to sort of understand is I'm going to share my screen. I'm actually going to walk you through some of that process. And then as we go through the process, I'll explain a little bit so you can see what you do as a customer when you're actually submitting. And then I'll go through the process of actually what happens. So if I just pull up my screen, just bear with me a minute. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now.
Yep, we've got it.
Okay, all right. So when we ask for feedback, so we go to the feedback.skillable.com website, and you can see that the way that things are organized here is it's organized by individual product areas. So if you notice that it's broken down by a specific category, and submitting a new idea is very simple. So if I just go through, okay, just if I click the idea and say I have some sort of new idea, I'll just say a new idea. Okay, and I'm trying to figure, saying, hey, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? Okay, TMS dashboard. Okay, need more buttons or something, right? And if I go ahead and you say, well, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? So this is sort of a little bit of detail. So the way we look at this is the opportunity for you as a user to sort of give us your kind of exposure, give it some sort of title and something that's meaningful as to what are you trying to solve? And this is one of the critical areas. And the reason is, if I were just to submit this, okay, Kyle, though yours is a perfect question. I have a thought I'm going to submit. And yeah. Okay, and I said, as long as I have, I get these required fields. They always ask me required fields, and I can put in some information because it's asking me to. And really, all I care about is just my information at the top is the most important. The way we look at this is we get a report saying, hey, a new idea was submitted. We go through go through the entire submissions every week. And one of the first key things to know is that when I submit as an individual contributor, it doesn't automatically go public for everyone. So it first goes into a queue to actually get reviewed. And the key area to note here is that you see that there's no product category. So it says, hey, this is a TMS specific thing. Hey, this is studio specific, or I'm having a problem with my cloud, some enhancement I'd like to have on my cloud Azure subscription kind of concept. Or so you as a contributor may say, hey, this is what the product I want. Why is there no product? So that's kind of why we're asking you to put in kind of what you're trying to solve. So by helping identify, hey, let's say I'm an instructor using the TMS admin. I'm doing this, and it would really be nice and save me a lot of time. I spend doing this kind of thing over and over again. So a lot of times the problem goes along with the idea, because the idea is like, do this, but if we don't have a context, it's hard for us to rate that. And let me just go in one last thing, and then Kyle, I'll let you continue. Okay. What also helps for us is the role. Okay, so the role is very important because it gives us the context of the persona. So as the submitter, we really don't know who the submitter is. So you can say, hey, I am, sort of, I'm an administrator, or I'm a learner, I'm an instructor. Okay, so that gives us sort of the understanding as to, who this topic would benefit. Because a lot of times we just see it as an individual request, and we're trying to size out, saying, what problem are we solving? What are they asking for? And then who's the target audience that should be impacted by this? And then one last thing at the end. Okay, when would you need this by? And if you're like me and you see a form, you pick the first thing. And it just so happens to be yesterday for everything, right? So it's interesting, but it's one of these things that just gives you the opportunity to say, how important is this to you and to your business, right? So how does this impact you, and how valuable would that be? And so we review this at least once a week. And then once we review it, you'll get a comment back. So you usually get a comment within a week, and sometimes a little bit longer than a week. And the goal there is to make sure that we address it, and then it goes into the category section. So then you'll see that your idea is in the category, and you as the submitter will get an email saying, hey, it's been reviewed. And there are some things quickly that happen in behind. So every time we review an item, we have to, we assess everything. And once we identify which product it goes in, like here, lab delivery is the TMS, or if I'm calling via API, or even if I have a directive, I'm a school and I call in via LTI, right? So there's different things that I do, or if I'm in studio, I'm building labs, right? So, hey, my users are having an issue while the lab is being launched. Something enhancement, I would like that to improve. And so we assess, and then we'd put it in the particular specific area. You as the submitter would get an email with a link to say, hey, it's been updated. And you also have the ability to do a couple of things. One, first of all, make sure that it's in the right category, because we're assessing based on your feedback. If you find it's in the wrong category, there's no problem. Just go in, and if I pick something, go in, and it's very easy. Just add a comment and say, yeah, thanks very much, but it's in the wrong category. Sorry, because once it's submitted, we're also soliciting feedback to make sure that we're actually putting it into the right product focus. So that gives you an idea. And if you notice at the top here, and then I'll leave it for more questions than for you, Kyle. You notice that everything is organized. So what this shows you is the number of submissions in each particular category. So if I was just looking, let's just take a look at the TMS. Okay, so if I'm an instructor, it's TMS related. These are all the TMS specific inquiries. Okay, and all of the items. And you see that there's this green box here says vote. Okay, what is the voting, and how does that constitute? Does that mean if I vote more, it's going to be at the top of the list? If I don't vote, it's at the bottom of the list. And the way the voting happens is, remember, it gets reviewed once a week, and the right category is submitted. There's usually a response. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be implemented right away. What also then is it goes through a review process, and we actually then assign all of these with a specific score. And part of that score is based on the problem we're trying to solve, kind of the impact. If we see that, hey, this could be applied to all instructors and the TMS as an example, say, okay, maybe that would have a greater impact. And then, hey, there's a lot of votes, so there's a lot of people interested in this particular topic. And so what that does, it helps us into identifying that, hey, our users really are looking at, hey, trading keys being exposed or something like this, like all these things in regards to the ideas. And one last thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll give it back to you, Kyle, is you notice that when you're searching this, because a lot of times you say, well, I don't know where to find things, and how do I know things are moving forward? Okay, there's the status is on the right-hand side here. You say will implement, future consideration already exists. Okay, so what happens is, as we go through the review process, part of that review process is to identify each item to make sure that it's in the right prioritization. And the prioritization is where you get a status flag. And if this is your particular notice, you would get notified as we move things through the process. And just a quick summary, what does the process look like? Well, the process is basically, so it needs review. Is, if I make a brand new one, the status is needs review. Once it's been reviewed, then it goes either to future consideration, it goes to likely to implement, will implement, or already exists, right? So you have sort of 4 different pathways to go, and you as the submitter always get an email as when that gets updated. And the key to success, so, and I've said this maybe multiple times, so Kyle, please keep me honest when I say this. What's the way to make sure my idea doesn't get stale? Okay, we have this all the time. So if we assess it weekly, we do, and it goes into our future planning, but sometimes our future planning doesn't mean that, oh, the next week that it's going to go on the list. Yeah. So sometimes you as the submitter say, hey, this future consideration, I'll just pick this one as an example. Then, okay, so we can say, this future consideration was first put in September 22nd. Okay, or I commented on it. It just happens to be I'm the one that first commented it. And then what actually happens is as it goes up, you'll see that maybe since January there has been no additional comments. So if you, as a customer, say, hey, what's the status of this? Hey, this is more important. I have more information for this particular idea. I have another use case, and really powerful for us is how you're using the product, because sometimes when we're saying I'm trying to solve this, but I don't understand always how you're using the software. And this really helps us sort of identify how critical these problems we're solving for you and which ones are most important. So that gives you a quick bird's eye view of kind of the process that it gets reviewed regularly. And what happens, and one question to you, Kyle, and that was, how often would you expect something that says, I will implement something? Does that mean that it should be today, tomorrow, next week? That's probably a good question. And Kyle's going to say, I really don't know. That's a good question. And I'll say, well, as the product, okay. So I answered it for you, Kyle. So you didn't have to put you on the spot.
You're taking all my questions away. So it's great.
I'm so sorry.
I'll be sitting over here.
I'll be over there. Oh yeah, yeah. So what happens in that regard? So when we flag something as will implement, that means it's in the planning process that we are actually physically scheduling to be done in the next short period. Now, the short period could be within the next month or the next 3 months. So typically, we don't necessarily schedule something we'll implement that's next year, right? So typically, that means we'll implement. It's going to be now. When will implement happens, you will also, if we need further information as we're going through the planning phase and say there's not quite enough information, then we will reach out to the submitter. In this case, we'll add some comments and say we had some further questions about this particular flow. Would this work? Would this work? And we actually work that solution with you. So the whole goal is to make sure that we have an active collaboration back and forth through the comments. And if you see something that you're interested in, please vote it. right? Please give us a, just click and say, yes, that would also use for me. What I've seen works really well, just because someone else puts in a post and say, yes, I believe that that's a good one for me, I vote it. But if it also has something to do with your flow, I would encourage you, put a comment in saying, yes, I as a customer, I go through this all the time. This really would impact me as well. So now all of a sudden I see here's the problem, but now others, that are also following and saying, yes, that actually works for me. And a lot of times we get to the root of really what the real problem that we're trying to solve. And a lot of times we pull these together. And that's the last question that I have, is saying, what do we do with all of these ideas? Because some of them are related. Well, part of that review process is we constantly go through and say, hey, when I actually put this one to will implement, what other ideas can I pull along the way? So if you notice that your submission is similar to another submission and it wasn't flagged, okay, in the comment, you can say, I see that this is related to this other idea. Okay, and you notice that the idea is right in the top URL. So a lot of times I just ask people, just give us the idea in here, because sometimes our reviewers don't see all the 400 or 500 ideas and know exactly which ones are linked. You as customers, a lot of times you say, oh, this is like this one and this one's like this one. It's similar, right? And then that helps us to say, when we decide to act on one, we can act on 3 or 4 at the same time and make a bigger impact across the board and get a better feature out. So Kyle, that's the end of my thing, unless you have any other questions.
So Erica, like you asked all of them. But so I do have, so okay, so when you've got that process, we've gone through the flow. Is there ever a time where, well, like, because you said there was the flags were under consideration, or under consideration, and then will be implemented, future development. That's like, is there ever a time where we say no? Like, is there a flag that says no, yes, will not be implemented?
There is a flag that says will not be implemented. Okay, yep. And that is sometimes it's a little bit more rare. Okay, what we find is that we're able to base your request, and usually we get a lot of times we say, yeah, okay, we won't implement that particular one. However, we may address that this way, or this is part of another feature. So we won't, so if it's not an exact, hey, this already exists, we won't implement this because it could cause maybe some other collateral within the product. But we'll always give you a specific reason and say, hey, that's good. That we won't implement this because there is actually a better flow that you may not be aware of. Here's the documentation, here's the suggested flow, and here's the workaround. If you feel that your idea still is valid, then we encourage you then to add another comment. And I have actually put something into will not implement. The customer responded with a new comment, with a new use case. All of a sudden, the clarity was a lot more clear, and we actually put it back into future consideration. So it's not like just because it goes into will not implement, oh my goodness, they don't like my idea. No, but it helps us to make sure that we're actually addressing, the most important things, and and that's where I really encourage, adding those comments. Adding the comments really helps us identify. It's like if you're an instructor and your students never give you any comments, that's a hard class. Everyone goes away, say thank you very much, and then then afterwards you hear, oh my goodness, right? So and it's good that we have these comments because we're all using the products the same, or in a different way, but we're all using the same products.
Yeah, I think that's probably important as well. Is that the analogy in the classroom, I think, is good. Like, sort of, like that you very rarely hear from students, right? But when you do, it's normally it's something important. And the other sort of part of that analogy is that oftentimes, say for instance, if you're in a classroom and a student asks a question, it could be something you've already answered, but they just haven't taken that concept. So it's the same sort of thing within here as well. From what I see, is like that there could be that you put a request in, but it could be that it already exists, but you just don't see it in the way that it's there. So that comes to us to explain a little bit better. Oh, look, this is this functionality that actually does what you want it to do, but maybe it's a little bit of a workaround to get to that point. So it's a different way to be able to put it through. So okay, so and along the way though, like, you know, I think the important thing is that we want to encourage people to certainly put a request in. So the request has, like, you know, always make sure you put you put the feedback in. So if there's something that you go, that would be great, you know, obviously, you know, if you're in the middle of a class, maybe that's not the time to stop. Just hang on, I'm just going to put the feedback in now. But you know, like, but do take the time to put it through. Same as you do, like, you know, if you're in a classroom and someone's asking you information, or sorry, if you're explaining something and they ask it back, you give them as much information as you can to make it clear. That's what we need to be able to put for the feedback. So put as much info in, like, you know, your workflow, how you got to it, what the impact is by doing it, what your suggestion is. And then, you know, I saw there was, like, in the feedback form, you know, there's options to be able to attach files, that sort of thing. So that's sort of where maybe, you know, if you've sketched something out, put that in as well. So then, you know, gives Eric something to read and appreciate. But I guess the other note as well is that, you know, looking at that list of how many items are on the feedback.
Yep.
There's a few hundred items that are living within there across the board. So one of the feedbacks that I certainly have had from one of my customers is, well, and it was actually one of the ones that was in there. I put this request in a while ago. It hasn't been done, but, you know, like, I guess the flip side of putting the request in is, and, you know, Eric, you did a really good job of explaining what that flow is that just because you ask for it doesn't mean it's going to be put in immediately or in, you know, the near future, because, you know, like, it's a big product with lots of moving parts. So therefore there's going to be points where if you put, like, you know, if we implement something, that it has to be tested to see to make sure it doesn't break something else, because otherwise that's going to be annoying for other folk as well.
Right.
So okay, all right.
No, that's perfect. I have one thing to show you, because you just mentioned it, Kyle, just so I can show because you said screenshots. I just picked up one at random. Okay, and I'm just going to actually share my screen one last time.
Yep, no problems.
Okay. So, you know, so class output, achievement code. Okay, here's the problem that they're trying to solve. And okay, so if you go down to the earliest, okay, so we ask and, hey, could you provide additional information, or what are you looking for? Hey, they actually provided a link. Hallelujah. Then, oh, by the way, then there's a screenshot. Okay, so it gives it, so now it helps to say, oh, this is the area where I'm actually talking. Because if you just read, okay, to add to this, I really have no idea from the product which area of the product in which product, because we do this in both the TMS and in and in Studio. So in this case, they're saying, okay, it's hard for me to actually get that. And I said, I assume it's a TMS because the user submitted LMS administrators. I'm assuming without any certainty. And so, you know, it was, you know, once we actually got this and say, oh, we know okay, we know what that is. It is definitely on this, you know, okay, they're on the find classes in the TMS. So just to sort of finish that comment then.
Yeah, it's like it's the thing of the picture tells 1,000 words, right? It adds so much clarity, in particularly if you're trying to solve a particular problem, putting something like a screenshot in just means you can go, right, well, this is exactly where it is, because oftentimes we all have different words that we use to describe the same thing as well, so that makes it challenging. So we go, well, this is what it is. And so, well, okay, that was completely the wrong screen. Like, completely different analogy, but I have within my wife's family, there's oftentimes conversations which two people are involved in, and they talk parallel to each other, and they get very upset with each other because one is saying something and the other one's saying something else, and they keep on. They basically end up in almost an argument about it. So I sit in the middle and I go, well, just stop. what you mean is this, and what you mean is this, and there's this. Oh, really? So that's the kind of thing that we want to make sure that we short circuit, right? Because particularly when we're dealing with words that are on a page, it's hard to get some of those nuances about where we're actually going to. So yeah, putting in those screenshots, putting in the extra information, as much information as you can throw in is going to make life much easier. And it's also going to make it so that it then becomes a clearer thing for anyone else looking at it as well. So therefore, if someone else, like not even on the Skillable side, but someone like on the customer side is looking at it, goes, hey, that's exactly what I do as well, because they can see what's being referred to. So.
And Kyle, I have one. You just reminded me of one last thing. If you remember, I said that we actually go through a review process first before it becomes public. Okay.
Yep.
And you say, well, why do we do that? We do that to protect the customer from sensitive data, because a lot of times you do a screenshot and then you inadvertently put in a user's information, which you shouldn't. Really, that's not the forum to do that. And so then that way we'll then contact you and say, hey, do you have another screenshot, or we'll blank it out, or we'll do something. And then to the submitter say, hey, I had to modify this. I took out the customer, so any PII information, just to make sure that we can actually make it as a public. So if you say, how come my other people in my organization can't see my idea yet? Because it goes through that review process first before it goes public.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
And then I'll also say, look, from the instructor perspective, if there's something that you as an instructor have put in, canvas the rest of the instructors, not necessarily just within your organization, but also within the community as well, to say, hey, look, I've put this idea in. Does this sound like something that you think is also a problem, or something you can suggest to, and then encourage them to do that, to vote in as well, because as Eric said, it's that feedback that we get, which then tells us influences what the priority for implementation is as well. Is if it's a large impact, just to kind of go, oh yeah, actually we're all being, there's multiple people being affected by it. So, it's the same thing in your classroom, right? One person having a problem with something is an issue for them. The entire classroom having a problem with something is an entirely different sort of scale of problem. So that's the sort of thing, like with the feedback, if there's something that you think can be improved, and there's a lot of people that have that same thought, then that also influences our priority as well. So I'm not suggesting putting up an 0800 number to start calling in to vote. Yeah, well, it's not like The Voice or insert random countries got talent show, but. All right, no worries. Thank you very much for your time, Eric. I do appreciate that. I think that's a good way to it gives us a good insight as to what that sort of process is and that sort of thing. Can you stick around? I'm going to try and make sure we've got some time for questions at the end. So at the end of the session. So we'll if you can stick around, if there's questions that people have, they can jump in there. Or if you do have questions at the moment, just drop them into the chat window, and we'll get Eric to jump on those as well. Otherwise, we're going to pivot now to Ashley. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. So we've got Ashley today. As for those who are regular attendees for these sessions, you'll know that Ashley is one of the champions for our challenge labs, and she has some exciting news. Ashley.
Great. Well, first and foremost, thrilled to be back on the docket and joining you guys in this call today. I'm also going to say selfishly, I may or may not have, as in totally did pick up some pointers from Eric, because I too submit ideas into our portal, and so I may now know how to bump mine up a little bit. So thank you both, Kyle and Eric, for that. So very happy to be joining you guys. Again, what I thought we could do today, and already going to say not death by PowerPoint here, and hopefully it's going to pull up. I wanted to do just a quick, again, kind of overview refresher of what our challenge labs are, what they kind of mean to us, and then give you, again, just kind of, again, what it is, how we go about them, do an overview of our portfolio, just kind of let you know where things stand. And then, like I say, we've got a couple of offerings that I want to share with you as well. So let me pause for 2 seconds. Kyle, can you see? Thank you for being, again, the thumbs up or the thumbs down, or I saw a head nod as well. Okay, great. So again, not death by PowerPoint, but again, what are Skillable Challenge Labs? Challenge Labs are our proprietary product that we've had in place, gosh, 4.5, if not 5 years now, and it has evolved over time. And I feel like we have landed really what we want Challenge Labs to be, right? And what it boils down to, we are saying Challenge Labs are our hands-on experiences that result in evidence-based, or I should say evidence-based validated skills, right? How are we validating skills? We are scoring actual learners' performance. So while learners are in, again, a live lab environment, we're going to go through and score the outcomes, right, of their performance. And part of that outcome, if you think about it, and if you've seen any of the challenge labs, we want it to be a real world, even though I kind of hate that term. We want it to be a real world feel, right? And so what we mean by that, when we get in those challenges, you'll see that they're framed up very much kind of goal-oriented in tone, not very prescriptive. Hey, go create this, go deploy this, put a firewall in this region, enable this. And that's really because we want folks, like say, to get in a problem-solving mode, right? And part of that problem-solving mode is that they don't need to take a prescriptive or step-by-step approach to get to an end result, right? We care, don't care how they get there, as long as they get to the end result appropriately, or I should say again, that they get to the appropriate end result. And it's that end result that we're saying, hey, we're validating this skill on. So this person does know how to create a subnet, or this person does know how to secure a VPC in Amazon Web Services. As you can tell, I'm kind of going off the cuff here as far as topics. But again, it's the evidence-based and validated skills. We are scoring the learner's actual performance. Also in this environment, they have, like I say, it's the ability to go through and continue to try again, right? We provide them feedback along the way. Along with feedback and along with the challenges themselves, we also have different modes or different levels available of the challenges as well. So we have guided, advanced, and expert, and soon to be capstone. And again, those come with varying lengths, varying complexity and task, and then also whether we provide hints, and by hints meaning lots of help, lots of guidance, or a little bit of guidance. And in addition to that guidance, feedback along the way. Once a student or a learner has actually completed a challenge, we then present them with what we're calling our end of lab report. I also call it our end of challenge skill report. And so I know this is probably a little hard as we're not going through a challenge itself today, but basically what this end of report is showing you, and I'm actually showing you 3 different outcomes, right? Where someone, like say, did pretty good, right? You see in the green dial there, we give them a medium stakes in the orange dial, and then with the red, certainly areas like say where they need a little bit more work. But I mentioned to you, we're scoring again that learner's actual performance based on their performance.
Sorry, just to jump in, because like a lot of our trainers and that thing will have seen the challenge labs through the Azure courses and that thing. Yeah. This end of challenge skill report, this is all new. Like this is like as in previously we used to go, yep, good, you passed, or you know you but we didn't really like this feedback is new feedback that if you haven't seen what your students are doing, you may not have seen this end result. So this is new. So
thank you, Kyle. Clearly, I will gloss over items. So I appreciate it, Wingman. And so just as Kyle alluded to, this is feedback. Like I say, we let the students know how they did. We kind of let them know, if you look at kind of that top meter, that's overall challenge, right? That's how they did. And like I say, based on the totality of the requirements that they had to perform within the challenge. But then below that, we take it a step further down to the actual skill that they were asked to perform, or again, the particular outcome. And in and around those outcomes, you can see we also say, hey, green, good job. This is where you excelled. Hey, maybe here's where you have room to grow, again, on kind of those yellow and reds. And again, really indicative to the customer, or again, the learner at the end. Oh, I really need to go back and practice and take a peek at that logic app. Like, I wonder what I missed on that. And I can turn right back around and let's say, try it again. And let's say, learn by doing as we go through. So end of skill report, end of lab report, new, available, like say, to learners as they complete labs as well. In addition to some of that new, as I'm trying to make a transition, but probably not very successfully here, but transitioning newer content, our portfolio has expanded significantly within the past year or so. We're going into new areas, as well as even going deeper into some, like say, subjects areas that we have had previously. So what I've got up here for you right now is looking at our portfolio, but in a couple of different ways, right? In the upper left, like say, you kind of see just a grouping by topic area. So whether it's cloud, or again, whether we're just going to say straight up IT ops. But then you can see a little bit more granular level listed below, either where it's by a job role. Again, even though job roles, I will say, an administrator can mean many, many, many things. And probably quite to that point, an administrator does many, many, many different things than what they used to do 3 years ago. But we do have those directions and paths. We also have it broken down a little bit more granularly, if you will, by technology as well. And so a couple of new areas that I will highlight for you guys that we've been adding to. You're going to see a push for us around data. Data science in particular, and then right behind that is what we're calling our business productivity as well. And so this will be anything from Power BI, the Power Apps, Power Platform, I'm going to say that word carefully, some Power Platform pieces, even down to Microsoft Excel, and really, like say, exposing to a broader audience that we've done in past. I would say probably for this, and I'm super assumptive in this crowd. Previously, I know a good majority of our attendees in past, like say, have seen challenges embedded in our mock offerings that we have or have had in past. We have been adding challenges to new mock titles. Within this past week, and boy, the blue tint did not come through very clear on this slide, but we have about 5 new courses that we have embedded our challenge labs in. And this, like say, I view as something for you as your instructors in your classroom, like say, new and different to try with your students as far as an engagement level. I also think it's very nice for students, like say, to have it as an application, right? To actually apply perhaps what they've learned, hopefully what they have learned in, like I say, the course itself. And it's, again, something they can come back and repeat multiple times. Like say, be it in the class, be it after the class as well. So new titles, like say, recently released. There was the new, but then you can also see the coming soon. My biased opinion on this, I think the SC 200, the MS 102, and perhaps the AZ 040, which the PowerShell course, I think those are going to be some popular ones. So stay tuned on those. We're hoping to hit end of Q3, and obviously we'll go a little bit into Q4 as well. And then early preview, early release, drum roll. You guys are actually the first folks that have seen it. I'm not kidding. Hot off the presses. Super proud again and pleased to be sharing with you that we will be releasing challenges on Google Cloud as well. So rounding out, if you will, another, like I say, cloud provider. Certainly we have AWS today and Azure, and Google is where we will be going next. We have got soon to be 15 challenges that will be available. And we're going to be offering a pilot on those challenges. And what I mean by a pilot, and I'll actually flip to here, some titles just to give you a little bit of context. We want to see if we're hitting the mark with our challenges. I mean, certainly there's some similarities between Azure, AWS, all cloud providers, right? But they each have their own different flavor and approach, which means we also have to take a different approach within our platform sometimes. So we want to make sure these Google challenges are hitting the mark as well. Is it truthfully hitting the audience? So with that in mind, we're going to be releasing actually 14, my apologies, challenges specific to infrastructure services when it comes to Google. We'll be releasing them to instructors. And I will say generally instructors who raise their hands, in particular those that might be raising their hands on this call, as well as, again, I will say our current customers, like I say, to have them trial. Again, the challenges, this is always kind of my favorite term. Let's go in and kick the tires, make sure we're doing it correctly. So a limited time pilot, it's going to be about 2 weeks. That we'll give access to. There will be some feedback forms that will be, like say, submitted as well as collected, so we can take that back again to see where we'll be going next with Google challenges as well. So I don't have the formal, as I may have mentioned, you guys hot off presses getting ready to see this, but I will say this: we are going to be, like say, formalizing the pilot within the next week or so, and we will be distributing access and kind of controlling it. Controlling is wrong, but at least, like say, moderating is probably a better way of saying it that way, through our TMS as well. So we'll be issuing training keys and so forth. So for those of you that are interested on this call, if you want to give me a hand raise, a thumbs up, or even drop in chat that you are interested, you have my every assurance that I will take that information and then, like say, include you in this pilot.
Perfect.
And with that, I will turn it over back to you, Kyle. We can ask questions, whatever.
Yep.
Up to you, my friend.
No worries. Thank you very much. Yeah, that is like so literally just before we joined, we were chatting about what we'd be able to talk about and that sort of thing, and there was mention of the GCP, you know, the challenge labs for that. It's like, whoa. So very exciting. I know. Yeah, like it is like you know, like it's another place where we've been able to kind of like to push forward. So, and like as an instructor, you know, like obviously it's useful for your students to be able to, you know, to like for the challenge labs that are added into the courses, but it's also for you being able to get access to them as well, so that you can then, you know, test something or practice something that might be not necessarily part of what you're doing within the course, but be able to step outside of that as well. And, you know, like as a MCT, I always used to get questions about, oh, so what's this in AWS? I have no idea, because I haven't really played around in AWS. Azure, you know, all day long, but AWS and, you know, GCP, like I don't know, it's not my thing. So, but you know, with using these sort of, you know, using those options gives us a way to be able to push out a little bit or push our knowledge forward a little bit, so you can kind of practice and see what it looks like in other ones. So just bear in mind a couple of the instructor offers that go along with sort of within there. So skillable.com/offers is where you need to go to register this. So, you know, make sure you let your other instructors and the fellow instructors know to be able to go into that. Particularly for our Microsoft trainers, we've got the obviously access to all the mock labs As well as we do offer an MCT access, all access pass, and an AWS all access pass for the challenges. And then also we do have our instructor recognition program and that sort of thing as well. So, but again, go to that in skillable.com/offers to be able to sign up for that. And I love the voice activation in Teams. I don't know if you've noticed it, that whenever I mention a link, Kristen posted into the into the chat, so it's great.
I gotta get one of those.
Look, I tell you what, I'm sure that Kristen's available to assist as well, like for you Ashley, if you need us. So all right, so let's jump in to any questions that you might have. So any questions, let's just open it up. We've got a few minutes left. So if you've got questions for Eric, for Ashley, or for myself, or anything about anything we've talked about, or just anything in general around sort of the instructor program, that sort of thing. Like in the past, this has gone a little bit wild west, but we'll hopefully we've got some items that folk might raise if there's been something that's been sort of burning with you. So feel free to come off mute and ask the question. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask questions of Ashley and Eric, and we know where that ends. So. All right. Well, it's my turn then. So Ashley, and I'm going to put you on the spot here because I don't know what the answer to this is, but we do have instruct offers for AWS instructors and for Microsoft instructors. For the challenge labs. Now that we've started to put in some GCP content and that sort of thing, are we going to be doing that same sort of offer for for GCP instructors?
Nothing has been confirmed, Kyle. But I'm teasing. So honestly, yes, we will. I just don't have much of a time frame or construct to probably put around it. Right now, selfishly, I really want to get that feedback first.
For sure.
The first go around, just to make sure we're hitting the mark and doing what we need to do. And then ideally, honestly, what we want to do, once we ensure we're where we need to be, and again, that we're hitting that mark, we definitely want to expand, right? Just as far as other areas, and so forth. And just to take even a little bit of a step back, when we talk about GCP, I mean, it's not like GCP is just one thing, right?
No,
I mean, there's tons of services, right?
Azure
all
and
that
AWS,
kind of,
right? They're not just Azure and AWS, it's everything that goes along with it.
So really where we're focusing right now, and we kind of use this, like say, as our North Star a little bit and not even a little bit, but when we're developing our challenges, we look at vendor certification exams and honestly, their exam objectives and their job roles, right? To figure out, hey, we know this is what folks are being asked, like I say, to be responsible for. So all of that to say, super long-windedly, the other areas that we will be looking at, like say for Google, support their associate cloud engineer certification. So we've started, like say with infrastructure as a service, we'll be looking at, I think we've got another proposed series around storage, and then another one around security. And obviously I'm talking in generalities, but that's where we'll be starting again with Google and kind of building out that, like say, as a portfolio first. And then like say, we may go look at dev services, and then we may go look at DevOps there. So yes, to your original question, no time frame on it yet. And then there's some additional insights on kind of what we're planning to do with Google.
And so just as a generic question on that then, would you be open to, or would you welcome, say for instance, if and it's not just necessarily GCP, but like if folks say, hey, look, this would be a really great topic for a challenge lab, would you be open to getting some feedback on that? Oh my
goodness, absolutely.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah.
And would that be best to go through the feedback.skillable.com to get to that?
that is an absolute great idea and definite place for them to go. I will wholeheartedly tell you, not only there, and not to suggest we need to go to our support team, but our support team, as like say, your students are filling out comments and so forth, either around course evals, or even our challenge evaluation forms. They have been so kind in putting, hey, I'd really like to see more information on this. I get those comments. And so I essentially review them. I don't have quite the sophisticated, I'm teasing and looking at Eric here, quite the evaluation process, perhaps, that's in place. But I do receive them, and like I say, we do absolutely, like I say, keep track of them. So yes, 110%. Please let me know.
Like when you say sophisticated like evaluation that Eric does, he's actually, like, he's said there's lots of things. It's actually just the coin that he flips. That's what it is. So that it's
I knew it. I knew it.
No, I do. I jest.
Nice.
It's actually a 12-sided die. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, yeah. So okay. So and we do encourage that, right? Because like, you know, like we, like on our side of the fence, like, you know, we'll look at topics and go, this sounds like it would be a great topic for something, but it's not necessarily something that's going to land or be really useful for you in instructor land, or that you see your students going, you know, like if you're in a class, like, you know, an AWS class or an Azure class, or, you know, later on a GCP class, you go, people are asking questions about a particular topic that maybe isn't covered in, like in that the course itself. Then that could be a really good candidate for something that gets added in. I'll also say that the just because we've only got a couple minutes left, that Challenge Lab framework as well. Like, say for instance, if you think, hey, this would actually be useful for non-GCP, AWS, or Azure topics, and this is something that we could use, you know, internally for our processes or for our products and that sort of thing. That framework, you know, is available to be able to leverage off as well for like, so you know, reach out to, you know, or have, maybe not you, but have, you know, someone in your team reach out to their account executive and talk to, hey, look, this is, you know, we the Challenge Labs things sounds interesting. How can we use that for our content? So that might be an interesting thing. All right. So we do need to wrap up because we're almost out of time, and I want to be kind of respectful for folks' time. So the if you do have any, so a couple of items to sort of make sure you bookmark. So the instructor recognition, the instructor dashboard, and mock for those Microsoft folk that are the Microsoft trainers that have joined. Don't forget, we do have our Slack channel as well that you can join, and all the various different ways to be able to connect with us. But that just leaves me time to say thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have folk come through. If you do have any questions, and or if there's future topics that you think, hey, look, this would be really good to put through, do also, you know, give that as feedback to us as well. I'll try and drag in folk to be able to have that chat. We've had, you know, various different folk from from Microsoft, from you know, data scientists, and that's something that we've had in the past. So, as well as our internal folks. So, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it, and we'll see you in next month's session. Thank you.
Thank you.